So, the latest Nintendo Direct unveiled the next Fire Emblem game titled Fire Emblem Engage, and it turns out that all of the leaks surrounding this game were true. This entry will indeed feature the minty fresh protagonist seen in the leaked images a few months ago, and allow you to summon past heroes to aid you in your battle. I, for one, am glad that I discovered the leaks before this game was officially unveiled, as it has allowed me time to come to terms with the premise and art style of this game. Had this official reveal been my first introduction to this game, I feel like I would have been very disappointed seeing the direction it had decided to go in. While there are still some elements that disappoint me, I am excited to see how this entry will turn out. The thing that I dislike the most about it is definitely the design of the new protagonist, named Alear. While I have no issue with their outfits, I am not a fan of the hair. The oversaturated heterochromia of the hair is just too much. It could have worked for me had the colors been mixed, with some sort of gradient separating them, but the straight split down the center just doesn't appeal to me. I think that when I end up playing the game, I will choose the male protagonist, simply because he has less hair. I do, however, already feel like Alear will be a major improvement from Byleth as far as personality is concerned. They seem far more expressive and talkative than Byleth, who mostly wore a blank expression and communicated almost exclusively through shaking or nodding their head. As for the rest of the characters that were shown off, I found them to range from passable to comically bad. The only other character whose design I dislike is the girl who appears to be the dancer in this game. I just don't understand why she has so many brightly colored balls attached to her outfit. To me, it looks like she is covered in balloons, which isn't something I expect to see in a medieval fantasy strategy game. I don't really care too much about the other characters shown off, and will wait until I have played the game to make my judgment on them. At the very least, I am pleased to see that each character has a unique look, unlike Three Houses, where every student wore a slight variation on the same school uniform for the first half of the game. Perhaps the best character design in this game that we have seen so far is that of the Fell Dragon. Both his human and dragon forms immediately grabbed my attention. I will admit that at first I thought he was an elf, as his massive ears make him appear more like a dark elf than a Manakete. I'm also a fan of his headpiece, which reminds me of Grima's horns from Awakening, though I assume they are meant to represent the cobra hood that his dragon form has. Speaking of his dragon form, I really want to love this design, but there is one major problem that I have with it. While the cobra head helps distinguish this dragon from others in the series, I'm sure anyone who has played Dungeons & Dragons had the exact same thought I had upon first seeing him. Unfortunately, the design of this Fell Dragon is pretty much identical to the standard wyvern design in Dungeons & Dragons. Now whenever I see the Fell Dragon in-game, my first thought will always be that he is just a shadow wyvern and not an all-powerful world-ending Fell Dragon. Putting aside the unfortunate design similarities to the Dungeons & Dragons wyvern, I think that this is a great dragon design. So with all the negativity out of the way, let's move on to why I am excited for this game. What immediately stood out to me was just how amazing the visuals are for this game. The cinematics are beautifully rendered and are very reminiscent of the style used for Awakening and Fates. On top of that, the color palette is full of highly saturated colors, giving this world an unexpected pop of vibrance. Even the character models seem to be an improvement over Three Houses, featuring bright and lively designs which help them stand out, for better or for worse. While it is unfortunate that you can clearly see the rasterization of the finer details when the character models are presented up close, from a distance it is not as noticeable. What really sold me on the style of this game was seeing how the classic characters looked. While I'm not overly impressed with the new character designs, I think that the returning heroes that we have seen so far look amazing. As for their implementation into this game, that is something that I'm not yet sold on. The emblems mechanic is the new gimmick of this game. Sacred rings seem to be scattered throughout the world, with each one containing the spirit of a past hero to aid the wearer of the ring in battle. From what the leaks revealed, this feature was the most concerning to me. I was worried that the presence of past heroes would take away from the new characters. Why would someone decide to use a character they are unfamiliar with, when they could use some of the most popular characters from throughout the series? However, that doesn't look to be an issue here, since the past heroes are relegated to being equipable items that will grant skills and combat advantages during gameplay. Personally, I am split on this feature. On one hand, I love seeing these classic characters brought to life with these beautiful 3D models. This art style really suits the design of the older characters, and I can't wait to see how the other characters will look. I won't deny that I am excited to see characters such as Lucina and Celica again in a mainline game that doesn't look like this. I also love that we finally get to see the updated designs of past characters who have never before been rendered in 3D, such as Sigurd and Leif. But on the other hand, this could easily turn into nothing more than cheap fanservice. I can definitely see the story playing out more like fanfiction rather than a real Fire Emblem game. Either that, or the only returning hero that will be important to the story will end up being Marth, with the rest being relegated to nothing more than fancy equipable skills and weapons. I hope that this game can find a way to balance these past heroes into the story without them either stealing the spotlight or playing no part at all. I also question just how appealing this concept is to all the people who got into the series with 3 houses. Unless you bought the original Fire Emblem during its limited release on the Switch eShop, then 3 houses will be the only mainline game available to play on the Switch. This likely means that a character such as Lucina will be as unknown to people coming from 3 houses as Lyn was to people who started with Awakening. While yes, the mobile game has helped people get to know these past protagonists, that isn't the same thing as actually experiencing their story by playing through the older games. It's also important to remember that not everyone who enjoys the mainline Fire Emblem games plays Fire Emblem Heroes. To me, this game only accentuates the issue Fire Emblem has with accessibility, and how it is pretty much impossible to play the older games. Every game released before the 3DS era will either cost you a fortune to legally play, or has never been released outside of Japan. Although, I am sure that Intelligent Systems is aware of this issue. I still cling to the hope I had back when we first heard about the leaks, that this game is being used as a way to stir up interest in past titles and a launching point to remake the previous entries. Overall, I'm not setting my expectations too high for Fire Emblem Engage. All I'm expecting from this entry is a basic Slay the Evil Dragon story accompanied by solid gameplay. My greatest hope for this game is that it succeeds in getting people interested in past entries of the series and leads to more of the older games getting remade. But these have just been my thoughts on Fire Emblem Engage's reveal. Are you pleased with the direction this game is going in, and what heroes do you hope to see the most? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, thanks for watching.